Hey FreightWaves fans and friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wednesday, Hump Day, cyclical cycle, biggest day of the week. We are visited today by Chief Meteorologist Nick Austin telling us about road conditions throughout the U.S. And also we are visited by Market Expert Donny Gilbert, giving us a broker's take, a broker's perspective on what is going on in various places, and not the least of which is Houston. Houston, we have a brokerage sighting. So let's see, Nick, hey, how you doing?
Hey, Chad.
It is a great day today, and tell us what is happening. Tell us about disruptions.
Well, they're going to be all over the place. It's still winter, especially when we're talking about out west in the Sierra, the northern tier of states, which is basically from the Pacific Northwest across the Great Lakes. So this is a great new feature on sonar, the road conditions, not only current, but future road conditions, like a forecast, just like you could get for precipitation. So
fan-stinking-tastic.
It is great, and that's the best word I've ever heard to describe it, too. Out west, still a lot of snow in the Sierra, so we can kind of zoom in a little bit on eastern California and western Nevada. Yes, we see a lot of roads are wet. Those are in the lower elevations.
That is blue. Blue
right
is
here,
wet.
Yep. When you see the more kind of pinkish shades, we're talking about slush and snow, and then this bright pink here is icy conditions. Purple is possible closures, and we will see that here and there along I-80 and some other routes that go through the Sierra. So yes, I would suggest that carriers not send their drivers on any routes through the Sierra today, even tomorrow, although the snow won't be as bad tomorrow. It's going to be heavy for most of the day today. So it's just going to be really bad. There'll most likely be closures again on I-80.
Looks
a lot
bad
of the other routes.
through, past Denver.
The Rockies, yes, the northern, central and northern Rockies, from Colorado all the way up to Wyoming and even into Montana and Idaho. Yes, there will be trouble on a lot of highways and secondary roads up there as well. Some parts of the Great Lakes, like western Michigan, also around Cleveland, Ohio, and up into western New York, where we'll see more lake effect snow for today. Some areas will only see it this morning, but some areas it'll continue all day. And so, yeah, you have to watch out on possibly on parts of I-75, I-90, and upstate New York. That includes Buffalo over to Syracuse. So those are going to be all the problem areas for today and tonight as far as snowy roads, possibly icy conditions. And some of those areas will see very, very, very gusty winds too. So even if there wasn't snow on the roads, the winds themselves would cause problems. But you add the precipitation, the snow and ice, and it just makes everything that much worse.
Yes.
Yeah, so be careful out there. It's going to be pretty bad out in those areas today and in some of those spots for tomorrow too, especially those areas out west. But not just snow.
Oh, yes, okay.
I want to talk about one other thing, because out in California, it's not just the snow in the Sierras, but along portions of I-5, especially around Redding, Sacramento, and areas northward, even the Los Angeles metro area, between LA and up to near San Francisco, a lot of heavy rain. So even US 101 and the Pacific Coast Highway, possible road closures, because there might be some mudslides in some areas that, as a result of the flooding, there might even be some debris flows, rock slides, those kinds of things. It's not going to happen everywhere. And there could be flooding just in the cities themselves. So you have to watch out for that as well. So not just snow, but rain also causing problems out in the Golden State.
Okay, the Golden State is a mess right now. Thank you, Nick. You know, whether it's, rain or snow, the freight show must go on. Don't blame the meteorologist. He's just calling it like it is, like he sees it. And also, if you wanted to stay in tune moment by moment to the forecast, on Sirius XM, the Road Dog radio channel 146 does a very good job of keeping you up, sometimes with their shows in 15-minute increments, on what is happening around the nation in weather. But this gives us a good overview and a good opportunity to see what to expect today. And now, we have a Donny Gilbert sighting.
Good afternoon, Nick. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, I'm Chad, and I'm doing great. It's great to see you. Don't forget, Nick, you just replaced.
Nick just left.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Chad.
He left the building.
Anyways, we brought up Houston today. Houston's actually a very interesting market today. This shows our market volumes versus our market tender rejections.
Okay.
So over the last few days, we've seen market volumes start to increase a little bit, getting up to
In Houston.
277. Houston is now the 6th largest market by volume in the U.S.
Okay, and ever since
Beginning of the year,
the
January
beginning
1st.
of the year, we have seen the volume shoot up pretty high in Houston. How does it compare to the rest of the nation?
Well, they say this is the 6th largest market in the nation.
Okay.
So, and it's getting slightly growing and growing and growing, which is what we want to see for March. We want to see it continue on into the summer and just keep going up. However, we've seen our tender rejections keep going down and down and down and down and down. And it's
A
down to,
similar mirror to what we are seeing nationwide and have been for several weeks,
we
right?
have, Houston is now slightly a backhaul market, and that's going to help drive the tender rejections down. Carriers have less options when there's less loads than there are trucks.
Okay.
So with less options, that's going to drive tender rejections
It
down.
looks like they're basically accepting everything.
They are accepting almost everything.
Yeah.
So let's look at that.
Okay.
We get this broken down into all of our different types of lane types. Local loads, mid-haul, tweener load, and long haul. So you see the locals, 0.91% rejection rate. So
Pretty much
virtually
taking it all.
every load in the city of Houston that's delivering within the city is being accepted
And that looks pretty, similar to what, would be normal.
for a local load, yes.
Yeah.
And so it looks like the two that are the most favorable for a carrier are the mid-haul and the long hauls. So, or the mid-haul and the tweener hauls, 4% and 7.5%.
Okay.
Long hauls are at 10.52%. They are rejecting more long hauls right now than they are the mid-length.
And what do you make of that?
Well, I would see that when you look at the mileage, there's a lot of inner Texas lanes going to Dallas, going to Laredo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of freight out of Houston that goes to Dallas and Laredo, and they're accepting those lanes. When you get to the long hauls, you've got LA right now. That's a major head haul market, so they probably want to get out to LA. But there's also a lot of markets in the Northeast that are in that over 800-mile range that they probably may not want to go up in the Northeast. Okay. Chicago, they still want to go to with a tweener length. Memphis, Atlanta, those are good lanes for them. So that's what they're taking. And they're rejecting some of the long hauls. They do not want to go into the Pacific Northwest. There's a lot of bad weather up there. They don't want to go up in the deep Northwest. So those lanes are being rejected.
Okay. And so you are kind of bringing us like a broker's perspective. Like how are brokers working the angles right now with the high volumes, the low tender rejections? Is this I know for everyone their context is different. Maybe, different people have different approaches, but is it generally speaking, is it a challenging time for brokers? Is it easy? Would you say, I know the market is in balance, and brokers tend to thrive on volatility, right?
Sure. If you have contracted rates, which a lot of brokers do, then flipping those loads over to the spot market is going to be fairly easy, and they're going to be able to make fairly good margins.
Okay.
Look at the spot markets. If they're going into the spot markets and picking loads out of the spot markets, shippers are driving those rates down, and your carriers are trying to drive the rates up. So you can get into the spot market and you can accept loads off the spot market, but you're going to have to really work tough to get those carriers to push those rates down to create your own margins. So if you have contracted loads, then you're doing very well right now. If you're in the spot market trying to pick up spot market loads, it's going to be tough.
I see. Yep, that makes a lot of sense. And you have one other chart for us, huh?
Yes, let's go ahead and look at this. Now, across many different markets of the U.S., we can pull up wait times.
Oh, yes, and those seem to, more verification that they are going up.
They are going up. And in Houston, it's 149 minutes from when a truck driver arrives till he pulls out of the gate. And in a markets that we know where freight's a little bit slower, this is kind of a little bit disappointing. But a lot of carriers, once you break the
2.5 hours.
Yes, once you break the 2-hour mark, carriers will start to charge detention. So this is driving freight cost up. So When we see 149 minutes, if you're a broker, you need to realize in Houston, when you're booking loads, you need to be prepared that you might hit shippers that are detaining your drivers. So get to know your shippers, get to know which are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones. Because when you sell loads to carriers, they're going to ask that and they're going to want to know.
When you say carriers, do you mean also just owner-operators who might just have a few trucks? Or like, what does an owner-operator tend to charge for detention?
They're going to be very close to the same.
So, okay, and it's an industry standard.
It's an industry standard, but also, you know, an owner-operator is going to be smart and know the shippers as well. So when they hear certain names, oh, it's picking up here, I will not pick up at that shipper.
Okay.
Because they know they might hold them for 2 and 3 and 4 hours. Yeah. So these are areas when you see markets hitting 149, that shippers themselves need to work on getting the trucks in and getting the trucks out.
Why is the pendulum swinging back to these long detention times, do you think? I don't know if you can answer this, but I mean, I know volume's high and there's a lot of surplus, you know, there's plenty of capacity right now. Like what's going on? I mean, is it just that there's a whole lot and...
Well, there's a few things that are discussed. Sometimes in the slower periods of the months, being the first quarter, they may not have quite the workforce. So they'll scale the workforce for fourth quarter when it's picked up very in high volumes, and they'll scale back a little bit when the seasons are down for their part of saving cost as well. And in doing so, you detain trucks sometimes, and shippers are more concerned about their costs, not the cost of carriers.
Yeah, right.
So, and it's, you know, it's like, say, when you see some of these markets, there's other markets that are 40 minutes, other markets that are 70 minutes. They're working really hard to keep their detention times down. And Houston is a little bit above the average, but there's a whole lot worse as well.
Yeah. Houston, we don't have that much of a problem, really. Things are kind of imbalanced. 6th largest market in the U.S. I appreciate the way Donny brings us like a specific focus sometimes. Sometimes it could be a small place, like a relatively small place like a Green Bay. Sometimes it could be, you know, a mid-sized place like a Memphis or in Little Rock. Sometimes it could be a, you know, relatively large space like Houston. And what we're seeing from the Houston market is, well, what we're seeing in overview, like what we're starting with the top of the week, when Zach Strickland brings us kind of an overview of what's happening nationally as we look at the various markets. So nothing too aberrant that we're seeing in terms of detention times in Houston, and the, you know, the volumes and the tender rejections seem to mirror a lot of what we're seeing elsewhere. So thank you for tuning in. This is what is happening right now on FreightWaves Now. We are coming to you live each and every day at my favorite time of the day, 4 o'clock. So share the love with us on, you know, through FreightWaves.com and Twitter and social media, sharing the love in all different kinds of ways. So thanks for joining us today. We will see you tomorrow. And in the meantime, don't worry, be happy.